Okay. Well, hello everyone. I know we still have a few people getting logged in. I can see as you're arriving, but welcome to this month's Capacity Building webinar series. We are really glad to have all of you joining us today. We've got a good mix of folks who've been working on ABWK for a while and those who are just thinking about getting started. So um, it should be a good conversation. This is April Reardon. I am the Capacity Building Director here at Habitat Minnesota. So that's who you'll hear talking. I do have a bit of a summer cold and a cough, so I'm going to try to mute myself and avoid having all of you listen to me cough. But I've got lots of water and things, so we'll hope I can make it through here without too much of that. Um, But I think most of you have been with us before. Again, this is a monthly web conference that Habitat Minnesota has been hosting since January. The web conferences are the last Wednesday of each month. I just thought I would mention our next topic next month, and it's actually August 28th, not August 26th, but we're going to have some folks from HFHI joining us again next month to talk about the quality assurance process and checklist. We've been fielding some questions from our affiliates about that, also about MPAR, the mortgage procedures and regulations, some of those things that will be changing in the coming year, and also SOCI, the Stewardship and Organizational Sustainability Initiative, which includes the new fees for affiliates, so any lingering questions there. So we'll have some folks on there, so keep an eye out for that and be able to get signed up. For any, like I said, all of our webinars are recorded. And so if you go to YouTube and see the Habitat Minnesota webinars channel, which you'll receive an email after the webinar with a link to that, but you can check out past webinars there too. So how to participate today, we have a couple different ways to do that. We don't have an enormous group, so I'm totally fine with unmuting people. If you raise your hand and you're on the phone or have a headset or are able to talk with us, we'd love to just hear your voice and have as many voices in the conversation as possible. You can also type questions into the question panel. Those come to me. If it's a question or a comment that we're asking everyone to share, I can share that with the group. Otherwise, if you might just have questions for me too that are technical, and you can post those there and I can respond privately as well. So using that question or chat box is a way to just submit questions. You can start doing those at any time. You can also just make comments there as well. If you need to access the audio and you haven't done so yet, you can be listening through your computer, through your speakers there. You might have a headset, or you might be calling in over the phone. And so I actually have a couple of polls here just to find out a little bit more about how you are participating in the webinar today. This helps us just get a better sense of how many people are with us, and then how you are participating with the audio. So this is just, so it might be like we kind of see on the webcam, and we'll introduce them in a second, but Walter and SaraBeth are participating together through one registration. So they're logged in together, participating on one computer. So just wondering how many attendees, including yourself, are participating with you today. I did a webinar recently, and there are actually 5 people gathered around one computer. They were projecting and just listening through the speakers. So if you would go ahead and respond and let me know how many people are participating with you, that would be great. I've only got about 60% of you who have voted so far. So just need a couple more people to get in there. Hoping for 100% voted here. There we go. So it looks like most of you are participating independently today. Let's see, we can share that. So that's good to know. And I'll hide those. So then my next question for you is just, how are you planning to participate today? And so I give you several options here about you know, I'm on the phone and you're willing to talk and also chat, that would be the typing into that control panel area. You might have a microphone or headset and you're also willing to chat or willing to talk. This third option would be, you know, I don't have a microphone, I'm not calling in, I'm just going to be chatting and I can make comments and submit questions there. Or to let us know, like, you know what, I'm listening only. Don't expect a lot from me. I'm trying to do other things and listen, and there might be some other option though too. All right, so everybody has voted. I'm going to share this, and this is actually helpful for our panelists to be able to see them too. So we do have somebody who's willing to talk on using a microphone or headset, but we'll also chat. Most of you will be chatting, and we do have some who are just listening only. So this is always good for us to see just that combination of who we have participating. Okay. So today, our agenda will be to talk about this ABWK Learning Exchange. We'll find out more about that. We're going to first, though, introduce our panelists. And we can do a little introduction of who's participating with us today, though, too, so that might be helpful for them. So we'll do this overview of what the Learning Exchange was, hear a little bit about just lessons learned, highlights and promising practices, and questions is listed there at the end, but really you can submit questions or comments at any time. We have this great opportunity to talk to our ABWK experts from HFHI and ask questions of them. And so please, the idea with this capacity building webinar series is really to give you more opportunities to network with each other, to get access to some of this up-to-date and current information, but to have this more informal way of communicating with each other. So we know there's some expertise within our participants as well as our panelists. So please participate in any way that you can through the chat panel or just by raising your hand and talking with us. So without further ado, our panelists here, we are joined today by Walter Fields. He is the Manager of Housing Product Construction Technologies for Habitat for Humanity International. Many of you have probably met Walter or SaraBeth already. They were both at the OLI conference this past April. But Walter has spent over 30 years developing and administering programs for nonprofit organizations. He supports HFHI's weatherization and home preservation products. And prior to joining Habitat in 2007, Walter spent 17 years in the telecommunications industry, facilitating partnerships between labor unions and management organizations across the southeastern United States. Walter holds an MA from the Merrill Palmer Institute at Wayne State University and a Master of Science in Administration from Central Michigan University. So well credentialed. Thanks for being with us today, Walter. And we're also joined. Yeah, thanks. We're also joined by SaraBeth Sellers, and she is a program specialist for Brush with Kindness at HFHI. And she earned a bachelor's degree in public relations and advertising from Georgia College and State University in 2009. She served 1 year as an AmeriCorps VISTA at HFHI as the ABWK program coordinator before moving into her current position in September of 2010. Since her first day as a VISTA, participation in A Brush with Kindness has grown from fewer than 80 affiliates to nearly 500, and more than 4,600 families have been served through the program. She looks forward to future growth and is ready to support affiliates as they expand their repair efforts. So what an incredible run there to have that kind of experience and to see that growth in action. That's pretty amazing. So thank you, Sarah, also for being with us today. Okay. So first of all, just for either one of you, for George, for Walter, and for Sarah, can you just tell us about the ABWK Learning Exchange and kind of what that is and some of the background on that?
Okay, well, we started hosting them in July of 2009, and it's basically just an opportunity for affiliates to come together for, it's 24 hours really, 2 half days, to talk about A Brush with Kindness, share their experience, and learn from the other affiliates about A Brush with Kindness. And since 2009, we've had 16 learning exchanges. 321 people have attended them from 145 different affiliates and also 3 SSOs. And attendance has ranged from very small, I think the smallest was 13, and then the largest was 33. And the average attendance is about 21.
All right. And so most recently, what brought this to our attention was that our Minnesota affiliates were invited to participate in a learning exchange in Chicago. And there was a little bit of, it was kind of short notice, but can you give us a little more, tell us the story kind of behind that? I think it was looking for a place to hold this latest learning exchange and ultimately then opening it up because of the location. Is that right?
Yeah, we were going to hold it in coordination with the Illinois SSO last year, but that never worked out. And finally, things just fell into place for Chicago at like the middle of May. And so we had a really quick turnaround and had to get everybody registered within like a week, I think. But it ended up being our largest learning exchange, the most people at 33. We got 9 states represented, which was impressive considering we had such a short amount of time.
Great. And can you tell us more about sort of who attended, or like
Sure.
kind of, it says this wide mix of affiliate roles were represented?
Right.
All the best people were there. We had the cream of the crop.
We had 11 EDs, 4 board members, 3 development directors, 3 construction staff members, 3 volunteer coordinators or volunteer managers, 2 actual volunteers, 2 family services staff members, 2 community outreach staff, 2 A Brush with Kindness coordinators, and then 1 program director. So a really wide range of experience and different kind of affiliate roles. So.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting to see. I would have thought it was more ABWK coordinator. Did the people who come to the learning exchange, were most of them already have ABWK programs established, or were some of them going to explore starting one?
I think it was about half and half. Half of them had done maybe 1 or 2 projects at least, and then the other half were kind of just getting into it, or had really just decided that they were going to get involved in A Brush with Kindness.
Okay. Well, and so just looking at what's included in the learning exchange, I mean, I think when we look at the topics that are covered, that probably reflects that sort of half and half piece. But so there's ABWK 101. I imagine some of those newer or exploring affiliates may have attended some of that. But maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what's included in each one of these. I think pricing and payment for repairs, especially for those of our programs who are looking at, I guess for both, like getting started and those who are more established, those tend to be, you see a lot of questions about that. Team leader training, you can tell us a little bit more about that then too. And then you have the affiliate spotlights. And is this sort of how the content for each one of the learning exchanges that you've done? Or does it vary?
Most of the most recent ones have gone something like this. We added the pricing and payment workshop, I think, 2 learning exchanges before this one, because we finally had the information, and we knew that it was something that affiliates wanted to know.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about, how do you pay for this, and how do you work it out, and how do we justify charging people for a relatively low cost kind of service. So that affiliates were struggling with that, and so we we made a point to spend some time on pricing and payment.
Great. And then the affiliate spotlights, how do those come about? I mean, so, we were excited to see that our Habitat for Humanity of West Central Minnesota in Wilmer was featured as an affiliate spotlight, and we're going to show a little bit more about that and hear about that. But then did they volunteer to do that, or did you reach out and ask each one of these affiliates to do something?
When I do the registrations, I'll usually mention I'm looking for people who want to share their A Brush with Kindness program. But then I don't usually get any immediate responses from that. Once people are registered, I'll go back and I'll say, I know that you've been doing A Brush with Kindness. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what you've been doing? And that's how these presenters came about.
Great. And we're going to hear a little bit more about each one of these things. So just to tell us a little bit, this is really about, we only had the one representative from Minnesota who was able to attend that most recent learning exchange, but just to get a sense of what's there and maybe to help trigger the conversation and get people thinking of what are some of the questions that they have. I know we have some affiliates who are participating today who are not currently doing an ABWK program, but are thinking about doing that. So if they were to attend a learning exchange, what kind of information is in the ABWK 101? Or what are some of the, maybe sort of hot issues or big questions that usually come up during those sessions?
Well, yes. With A Brush with Kindness 101, we talk about the brief history of the program, which, by the way, was started in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis, and HFHI saw the value of that and said, let's try to make that national, try to promote it on a national level. We tweaked it a little bit to make it apply with or fit with our normal habitat program model. And then we began to promote that with the help of Valspar, the Valspar Corporation. So we talk a bit about that, and we try to get across the concept that A Brush with Kindness is not a separate kind of program. It's really an extension of your normal new construction activity. So there's a whole range of things you can do in terms of construction, from building multifamily houses to single-family houses to rehabs to major repair to minor repair and beautification. And we call A Brush with Kindness that minor, or we call the minor repair and beautification A Brush with Kindness. And so all of those things, no matter whether it's very extensive or minor, are all part of the construction continuum, and they all work the same way. They've got, you have to find eligible families with a willingness to partner, an ability to pay. There's family selection, there's sweat equity, there's loan repayment. It works exactly the same way as our normal program model. So, we use donated labor and materials. We charge no profit. We charge no interest, and that's what makes our services affordable. So that's the general concept we try to get across, and then we talk about some specific things like how family selection is probably the most important part of the whole process. We talk about payment and a little bit about payment and pricing. We talk about the importance of developing a scope of work, not only for each individual house, in terms of what you do at each house, what's going to get painted, what color, what kind of yard work is going to get done, what flowers are going to get planted, very specific kinds of things at the house, but also the scope of work of the program. What is your A Brush with Kindness program going to look like? Are you going to do mobile homes? Are you going to do 3-story homes? Are you going to do roofs? Are you going to go inside the house or stay on the outside of the house? Are you going to do concrete work? Are you going to have a dollar amount limit on the amount on the work that you do? So none of your projects will go over, let's say, $5,000. So we try to get folks to think about what the program parameters are, because that makes it a lot easier to communicate with the community, communicate with your board, your staff, your volunteers, and the homeowner. It makes it very easy to say this house and this family is eligible, and this house and this family isn't. So those are the kinds of things we talk about in the Brush with Kindness 101.
For those who are maybe just starting or unaware of this, is some of that information, I mean, if they want to start looking at that in this manual that's available at My Habitat?
Yep.
Would some of those questions be there for them?
Yep.
Okay. Great. Well, okay, so another one of those big questions or topics that we're fielding sometimes and that we hear folks talking about, and wanted to give SaraBeth an opportunity, because you led this session at the Learning Exchange. But so SaraBeth was nice enough to send over some slides, but to just talk about the pricing and repayment, especially, I think it's a question that our new programs and even those more established ones still kind of struggle with. And Walter, you spoke to it a little bit in just this whole how to tweak the program and how to make it fit with this habitat philosophy. But SaraBeth, if you want to talk a little bit, this comes directly, some of these slides are just pulled directly from the presentation that you do at the Learning Exchange on the pricing and payment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it starts by asking, why do we charge for repairs? And the answer is simple. Number one, it's foundational to our ministry. It's our identity as Habitat for Humanity. We don't give things away. And that goes along with the dignity and success of the homeowner. Our partner families, whether they're buying a new home or paying for repairs for their existing home, develop a stronger sense of ownership and pride in their new home or their existing home when they have to pay, even if it's a very small amount for these repairs or new home. And then that follows with the sustainability and growth of our affiliates and our programs, because our future projects are funded through the Fund for Humanity, through the payments that the homeowners are making on their repair loans. So this is a quote from Larry Gluth that basically talks about what I just said. So handout, not a handout.
And so I included some of the slides here about the different payment models that I thought we could talk about, and then just see for our attendees if they have questions specifically about repayment or payment, or what am I trying to, pricing and payment models, that they could sort of look at some of these and see if this would be a good place to ask some of those. We can ask them later too, but maybe just to give a little taste of what you might get from this part of the Learning Exchange.
Yeah, April, let me interject something.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk about in 101 is that probably the best way to think about a Brush with Kindness is that it is just like new construction. And so if folks have questions, just general questions, if they substitute new house for a Brush with Kindness, you'll generally get the same answer, probably 95% of the time, because really the only thing that's significantly different is that a Brush with Kindness works with existing homeowners as opposed to people looking for homes. So all the principle of why we charge for a Brush with Kindness services is exactly the same rationale for why we charge for new houses, because it is the same program model, and that's pretty much the case all across the board. So we can talk about 100% cost now.
Thank you.
Well, first I want to point out that before you can determine the payment or even the price that you're going to charge, you need to determine your cost for any project, and then you can use that cost to assign the price that you're going to charge the homeowner based on whatever of these models you determine is appropriate at your affiliate and for your homeowners and your community. So I suggest that you start with your existing cost formula that you use for new home construction, and then modify it to work for repair projects, because obviously it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's probably a good place to start with whatever you already have going on. So the first, really it's a pricing model, not a payment model, but is 100% cost. Whatever your costs are, whatever you determine the value of the project to be, is what you would charge the homeowner, either through a no-interest loan or paying the cost up front. That's what you would charge the homeowner. And that, I don't know how many affiliates are using that option, but I don't think it's very common.
But we do find that in many cases, the homeowner can't afford to pay for the entire project up front without taking a loan from Habitat. Mm-hmm. So in some cases that's possible, particularly when it's not a matter of their income, but it's a matter of their ability. You know, perhaps they're disabled or they're elderly and simply can't, don't have the energy or the knowledge to do the work. So they've got the money, but they can't do the work.
Sure.
So they might pay 100% up front.
Feel free, attendees too, feel free when you see these models, if you're already doing ABWK, let us know if you see a payment model that you're using. Just go ahead and type that in. Okay, sorry.
The sliding scale, I'm starting to see this more often, I think, with affiliates. You adjust the price that you charge the homeowner based on their income. So someone making a higher income would pay more of the cost than someone who was making a lower income. And again, it can be a zero-interest loan, or they can pay up front depending on their ability. And this chart just kind of explains a little bit better how the sliding scale works. And these are just arbitrary ranges and percentages that that I came up with. You can adjust it however works for you. And then fixed price is one of those models that I think works best for Brush with Kindness, actually. You're going to be subsidizing a lot anyway, probably. But with a Brush with Kindness, you can kind of judge that your costs are going to be about the same for every project, especially if you keep it to a very strict scope of work for the program. So your costs are going to be pretty much the same across the board, and you'll be able to estimate that each of your projects will be about the same, and then you're not there aren't these huge disparities between projects. So in this example, $500 for a Brush with Kindness seems pretty fair to me. And the homeowner pays that amount for the project, either upfront or, if you want to stretch it out into a loan. And then there's fixed percentage, which is similar to fixed price. But I've seen this more frequently with critical home repair, not with a Brush with Kindness, where you figure out your costs, and then you just charge a homeowner a fixed percentage of that for the program, and then they can pay that amount again upfront or over a period of time.
Yeah, I think with with all the payment models, what's really key is, just like new construction, we subsidize our partner families to some extent. And so as an affiliate, you have to decide how much subsidy are you going to provide to the homeowner for this service. And whether you decide it's a 10% subsidy or 50% subsidy or an 80% subsidy, once you get to that decision, once you're comfortable with how much you're willing to subsidize, then it's easy to figure out what kind of payment model you want to use. Because then, it's not a matter of what you charge them, because that's already been decided. It's just a matter of how you charge them.
Right.
And partnerships they don't really follow with the pricing models.
Yeah.
But they are a payment option, really, that you can approach third-party financiers to help homeowners be able to afford this kind of work. And there should be zero interest or a zero interest equivalent. And there's one exception, which is USDA loans. We have a partnership with the USDA, I think on a national level. And we've said that those USDA loans, which I think is a 1% interest rate, are okay. And that money goes to the partner family and not to Habitat for the most part.
What kind of pushback, or what are some of the reasons that affiliates give for not wanting to require payment or repayment for ABWK projects?
Probably the two most common ones. One is we don't want to spend the administrative time and money to chase people down for small payments. That it's just too much administrative overhead to worry about getting repaid. And our answer to that is, well, you could probably do that for one or two projects, but if you're going to incorporate a Brush with Kindness into your regular activities, then it's going to be a substantial drain on the finances of the affiliate. It's not a sustainable program if you don't charge for it. The second, and to go along with that, it's what we found is the rate of defaults on payments for Brush with Kindness tend to be the same as for new construction. So whatever it is your affiliate is doing in terms of getting payments from your new house families, if you do that same type of thing, you'll probably end up with about the same kind of rate of default on your payments. The second reason that we hear for folks not wanting to charge is that it's only $300 or it's only $400, and that these are folks that really need the service, and it's not enough money to really bother with. And again, our response is, you could do that a couple of times because we all have good hearts, and it seems kind of harsh to charge somebody $300 for something that may have really only cost the affiliate, in terms of cash out of pocket, $100, $200. But again, it's in order for it to be sustainable for the affiliate, and that's what we're trying to help you do is be sustainable. And because it follows our principles of a hand up and not a handout, it makes sense for us to charge for our services. So those are the two major things that I hear. Maybe SaraBeth has a third one, yeah.
Okay. I think that probably lines up with what we were thinking. Maybe just to back up, what are some reasons that, so let's say 50% of the folks who attend a learning exchange, or thinking of the people that you talk to, affiliates that are thinking about adding an ABWK or expanding their products and services to include ABWK, what are some reasons that they decide not to?
It's certainly easier not to.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the folks will get some funding. They'll get some grant money, or they'll get a donor who says, we're going to give you $50,000, and we understand you've got this program, or there's this program where you can paint houses or clean up neighborhoods, and so we want you to do that. But we're giving you this money, so we don't expect you to charge the family. And because affiliates are, nobody wants to turn down money, they'll agree to that. And what we try to get affiliates to understand is that just like in new construction, what we want donors to do is to support the affiliate, to provide funds so that we can carry on the work that we do, and not to fund specific projects, so that they begin to dictate, the terms of that project. For instance, and again, this is one of those examples where you use just like new construction. If someone came to your affiliate and said, "I'm going to give you a couple $100,000 so you can build a couple of houses," and but we don't want you to sell these houses because we're giving you the money. Our reaction would be, or the affiliate's reaction should be, "Thank you very much. We'd love to have you partner with us. We appreciate your interest, but let me explain how we work. We don't give our houses away. We want you to sponsor us and support us, but we don't give our houses away. That's what we do." And that's the same type of response that affiliates should have when a donor says, "I want to give you $50,000 to paint these, 3 houses, but don't charge the homeowner because I'm giving you the money." We say, "Thank you very much. We want you to partner with us. We're glad you have an interest. Let us explain how we work. We don't give our services away." So that's one of the reasons why an affiliate may not charge, is because they want the donor's money and don't want to tell the donor, that's not how we do it. Mainly because maybe they haven't done it before and haven't gotten to the rhythm of saying, "Yes, we'd like your money, but this is our program." Maybe their program has just started and they haven't developed that identity yet.
Great. Thank you. So another one of the topics that's included in the learning exchange, or that was included in this most recent one, was about ABWK team leader training. And I didn't know until I started looking at this that there's lots of resources about this, or about how to support this particular role. On My Habitat, if you go to the ABWK page and look at some of those resources, but maybe just to tell us a little bit about what's covered in this topic area.
Oh, okay. Well, the team leader training covers what do you do when you get on the job site with a group of 10 to 15, maybe even 20 volunteers. The idea is that most of us can grab a paintbrush and move our arms up and down, but how many of us really know how to paint? And so when you've got volunteers on the work site, there's still some volunteer management and some tricks and tips that you should be aware of, particularly if your crew's not used to working on owner-occupied homes. So you want to make sure you've got enough, you know what the scope of work is for the house, and you've got enough equipment and supplies and enough volunteers there. Then you have to do a lot of surface preparation. And in the team leader training, we talk about effervescence, chalk, caulking, rust, cleaning the house with pressure washing or things like that. So you have a good surface. Priming. We talk about paint coverage and how to brush, how to hold the brush. Those are all things that very often need to get covered with the volunteers at the work site. We talk a bit about safety and how you manage the volunteers. For instance, one tip is rather than having one supervisor on the site that tries to manage everybody on all 4 sides of the house, that you create some sub-supervisors and sort of assign a crew leader to each side of the house. And so when someone comes to you with a question or you get a new volunteer, rather than you trying to supervise everything, you send them over to a side of a house, and that side has a supervisor. And so that supervisor knows what's going on that side of the house. And you as the site supervisor doesn't have to run around trying to keep track of all four sides of the house, because you've got your house side supervisor doing that for you. So that's a tip. Another tip that folks may not think about is when you've got folks on a ladder, most volunteer groups only have a few people who are willing to climb high on ladders. And so you get those folks up and you get them started first, and you make sure that they get their stuff done early in the morning before they lose energy, because if you don't have those folks, then you're going to have to go up and paint that second story. So your high ladder folks are real important. Get them going first. Make sure they get their jobs done before you worry about the lower half of the house. You also have to think about paint disposal. What do you do with the paint at the end of the day? You can't pour it down the drain in most instances, so you have to plan ahead for that. We talk about paint distribution. Have one central location for the person who controls, and one person who controls the paint, and they give out the paint to all the volunteers. That way somebody knows how much paint is out there, how much paint is left, because it's very easy for someone to come by and look at the paint and say, we don't have any paint left, when in reality you've got 20 small buckets of paint spread out around the house, and you've got plenty of paint. It's just spread out, so it doesn't look like very much. So those are the kinds of things that we cover in the team leader training. How do you work with a group of volunteers on the work site?
Great. And then another big part of the learning exchange are the affiliate spotlights. And I had a chance to talk with Jessica Bruck, who was the ABWK VISTA at West Central Habitat for Humanity. Jessica was a VISTA, and her service here has already ended, actually. So I tried to just sneak in a conversation with her in anticipation of this webinar, and I do have a PDF of all of her slides if you're interested in seeing them. But and I know when I was talking with SaraBeth to prepare for this webinar, I mean, you definitely said that Jessica's presentation was a highlight of the conference, and I have all kinds of takeaways and highlights from Jessica that I can pass along then too about sort of the benefit of doing that, some of the takeaways or questions that she was able to get answered that I'll share, but maybe just to give you a moment to comment on the presentation that Jessica was able to do at the Learning Exchange.
Well, we put her presentation during dinner because I had done a little research about her program, and I knew that she was doing some great work. And so I asked her to present during dinner. And of course she was nervous about it because, she's a VISTA. But she did a fabulous job. And I wish she was still around to be here to share her stuff with this group. But she came up with a lot of great resources that I think if April, if you have those, they would be wonderful to share with the other affiliates.
Yeah, and I just picked a few of the slides that I just thought I would show about, kind of what her presentation included. I mean, the slides are really, it's a lot of before and after photos, and so I think the bulk of she definitely did a nice job with the presentation, and that the visuals enhanced what she was talking about. But one of the slides that I thought I would show all of you was just some of the benefits to the affiliate, because she really looked at, as a VISTA, this study of how does this ABWK program benefit our affiliate. Is this something that we should continue doing, looking at best practices, and some of those different pieces, but really looking at those number of volunteer opportunities, these different types of opportunities, obviously serving more families, and really looked strategically at different types of sponsorship opportunities and also those partnerships. And I think what she would echo, and in her conversation, my conversation with her, really echoed what Walter said earlier about how important family selection is. And she talked about just that family selection really sets the tone, how you decide to do that right up front, sets the tone for your future pools of applicants. So they start to see what kinds of projects you have. And it might be, she talked about not having, especially in a smaller community, an endless supply of volunteers. And that she might have groups of volunteers that came forward who were good at carpentry. She might have others who were more interested in just painting, others who had more expertise in landscaping. And so really looking at the project and family selection and gearing that towards, or even catering it towards, whatever the volunteer skills were that were available. So if that makes sense, kind of really thinking about matching, these are the volunteers we have, these are their skills, and matching that, going after the family selection and looking at recruiting and finding families and projects that would match up with those skills. She also talked about then that, and I'm going to just move forward from this page here a second, sharing some of this cost recovery. And I think, SaraBeth, one of the things that I noted in about your comments about why you wanted to feature Jessica, or what you really liked about her presentation, was going back to some of this payment and pricing pieces, was just something about that they were really doing ABWK in the spirit of Habitat, and with this idea of a hand up and not a handout. And Jessica had shared with me that this kind of payment book was something that people have been asking her to share quite a bit, about a resource to help families just stay on track with their repayment of the ABWK loan. But anything about just the way that their program is set up that demonstrates some of those best practices that we've been highlighting up to this point?
Yeah, I love that they were doing what she calls cost recovery, which is an old term. Now we use pricing and payment. But that, these families were really invested financially and with some sweat equity in the work on their homes when possible. And she uses all kinds of volunteer groups and gets the community really involved. And all this she did as a VISTA, which is special to me because I was a VISTA once too. So yeah, they have a great program. And I hope it continues after Jessica is left. And I think if someone at the affiliate is willing to kind of share even more of their resources, that would be wonderful for the other affiliates.
We do have a question related to pricing and payment, and so from Sarah, is a promissory note a sufficient agreement for repayment, or is there an additional type of agreement needed?
You do also need a homeowner agreement, and we have both samples of both of those on My Habitat. The homeowner agreement sets out the expectations of what work is going to be done, and then how the sweat equity is going to go down, and how the payments are going to be broken out. And then the promissory note is really like the legal document for the actual loan. So you need both just to make sure that all the expectations are clear.
Great.
And again, we finally have samples of those, so you don't have to start completely from scratch.
Great. And feel free to thank Sarah for submitting your question. I know there are others, so if others who are listening in and participating, if you have questions, let's be sure to get those in so we have time to respond to all of them. Just a few other things about my conversation with Jessica, and I truly think that even though her service here was over, she would have joined us had she not been. She's traveling in Europe with her mom during this particular time, and so You know, but she really just raved about the learning exchange and wished she could have attended at the beginning of her VISTA year versus the end. I think we're hearing that um, she still was able to accomplish a lot at her site, but really enjoying the peer learning and sort of just being able to, because she was able to, as a VISTA here in Minnesota, she talked to a lot of other affiliates here in the state, but to be able to talk to others even outside of the state, like we said, there were 9 states represented, and to hear what other affiliates were doing, she found it really affirming as well, to hear the positive reaction to to her presentation and some of her ideas. Um, her big, I asked her for her takeaway, and she said the one thing that she was going back to her affiliate and really hoping that would be a next step for them would be to have somebody on the Habitat team there certified in lead paint removal, that would be a good return on investment for their affiliate and for their ABWK program. Another question that she came into the learning exchange with, or something that she was unclear about before the learning exchange and really felt like she understood more after being at the conference, was that ABWK is a tool within NRI. She kind of laughed and said that she just sort of assumed up until then that if their affiliate was doing ABWK, that meant they were also doing NRI, or the Neighborhood Revitalization Initiative. And so some of that distinction, and maybe in a moment, then SaraBeth and Walter, you could speak to that and see if that's kind of a common misconception or not. But and the other thing that she really highlighted was just that attendees at the learning exchange, and I don't think this is, I think this is probably representative of folks who are listening in right now too, was just that attendees were really interested in how to get referrals and how to do that family selection, and that just became that's it's an issue for new construction, and just substituting in for ABWK as well. And she really liked hearing a suggestion from one of the other attendees about getting your post office involved, and that the Postal Service and our postal carriers, because of the nature of their work, have a great sense of the state of the city, or what shape the neighborhood's in, or the houses are in, and who might be in need of help making repairs or doing some of that revitalization. So thinking about how to connect with those folks. And then she also shared an idea that she heard from somebody else about, they partnered with a community action agency that was in town, or this is something that she did, partnering with agencies who have similar programs. So she found a program in their service area that focuses on weatherization and energy assistance. And so working together, they really identified where are the gaps in services. So who were the families that met the same criteria, but who this other organization wasn't reaching through the weatherization and energy assistance. And then that other organization was willing to send out, they actually had some grant money to spend, so they were willing to send out West Central's pre-application for AWK to 1,400 people, and they did it. It was free of charge, no cost to the affiliate, because that other organization had some advocacy dollars to spend. So the applications and information about the ABWK program was going directly to those who would qualify, and they ended up netting 80 applications from 2 counties. So she was, excited about that and thinking about some of that family selection, again, emphasizing how important that piece was.
April?
Yeah, please.
The last 2 points on Jessica's slide here about NRI and getting referrals, I think are important because they're sort of connected. NRI is separate from a Brush with Kindness and all of the construction activities that we do. But NRI, what NRI encourages you to do is to look at all the tools that are in your toolbox. Not only all the construction services we provide, but advocacy, restore, working with other community partners, and those kinds of things. So because a Brush with Kindness is relatively easy, inexpensive, short-term kind of activity, certainly shorter and less expensive than constructing a new house. It fits pretty well into an activity that Habitat can bring to the community and say, listen, this is one of the things we can do relatively soon, and it's relatively easy. So it's one of the first things that an NRI affiliate usually does with the community, and that's provide some brushwood kindness services. So that's why it gets connected with NRI so often. It's one of the easy tools that you can use for NRI. But also, a brush with kindness works well with NRI because NRI encourages you to develop relationships with other organizations in the community, other institutional partners. And that is the best way to find families for Brush with Kindness. Working with the local churches, with the businesses, with the other nonprofits in the community. The example of the post office it's probably not going to happen very often. I tend to think that the postal worker who was involved with Habitat was married to a Habitat person or had some other kind of connection. So you had this unusual connection between the post office and Habitat. But it illustrates how using connections and using referrals from an organization in the community that has a connection with people allows Habitat to get their foot into the door in terms of being able to talk to that family, where otherwise you wouldn't be able to. Because what we found is direct marketing, door-to-door marketing, putting flyers on cars or doorknob hangers on the front door, it doesn't work when it comes to a Brush with Kindness. It's pretty much a waste of money and effort. And it's referrals that really make the difference. And once you get 3 or 4 programs or 3 or 4 houses painted and landscaped, and you get a little bit of publicity, then you find that you get more applications coming in than you can handle. But getting started is really tough, and it really takes referrals from some other established community group to help get you into the door.
Great. We've got some questions flying in here now.
Okay.
So this is actually a question that Jessica had lingering about insurance and why do partner families need insurance when we as an affiliate already do? And then I have several other questions from attendees that I will just keep firing away. So as we near the end of our time here, but so this question was one from Jessica about insurance with ABWK.
Easy answer, they do not need their own insurance.
Okay.
That's an affiliate decision. If the affiliate decides that you want to require homeowners to have insurance, that's fine, but HFHI isn't mandating that you require homeowners to have insurance.
Certainly the affiliate should have insurance, but not the homeowner.
Like liability insurance. Is that what we're
right.
talking about? Okay. And if that's unclear to anybody, please just let us know and we can say more about it. Okay, so another question from Sarah. Can you talk about a timeline for paying back the loan? For example, a $1,000 project repaid over a year, or is it more about discussing with the homeowner what they can afford? Is there middle ground there so that the repayment plans for smaller projects don't get dragged out?
Yes, yes, and yes. Yeah, it's a local affiliate decision as to how you want to construct your repayment policy. We would certainly suggest that you sit down and talk with the homeowner and talk about what they can afford. I mean, you've got their income information. What we suggest is that you make it as affordable as possible without giving it away. We do not want to burden the family with more housing costs. Our policy is no more than 30% of their income should go toward housing. Again, just like new construction. So what we want to do is sit down with our partner family. This is where the partnership comes in, and talk about what's a good payment schedule, so that they can pay you back, and you don't have to go around chasing them down. Yet you don't drag it out. You need to sit down and talk about what makes sense for you and the partner family.
Right. Question from Zach. Is improving a home's energy efficiency considered ABWK, or could that fall under ABWK?
That usually does not fall under ABWK. That falls under what we call weatherization, which is another part of our repair product. And the reason it normally doesn't fall under ABWK is because it's usually done on the inside of the house. A Brush with Kindness is, the way our program model is set up for Brush with Kindness is it is exterior only. Outside painting, landscaping, and minor repair. Now, having said that, let me give you a caveat. Many programs that call themselves a Brush with Kindness also go inside the house, or also do major repair, such as porches or roofs, and that's okay. What you call your program is totally up to you, and we're fine with whatever it is you decide to call it. But technically, a Brush with Kindness is only exterior work, and most weatherization work is done on the inside.
Okay, and one more question about, can you discuss repayment incentives? So, and just says, our board of a very small affiliate didn't feel comfortable offering any sort of incentive plan.
Like prepayment incentive?
I think just repayment incentive. And Sarah, if you want to jump in and chat, or I'm not sure if you have audio available to tell us more about this part. Raise your hand if you're okay with me unmuting you, but okay, here we go. Sarah's just going to talk to us. Okay, there you go. Hi, Sarah. Oh, Sarah, I see your hand up. You are unmuted if you want to talk to us. All right.
Well, we can talk about the prepayment incentives.
Sure, yeah, go ahead. Oh, wait, she did say, she says, yes, repayment and prepayment.
Okay. That's an option. It's not required that you offer prepayment incentives, because, again, that is further discounting the amount that you're getting back for projects. And a lot of boards aren't comfortable with that. I've heard that comment before. So totally up to what your board is comfortable with and what's going to work for your partner families.
Have you, I mean, how does it work? I mean, does it work for other affiliates, or has it kind of been not necessary? Or I think you said earlier that it's a really similar repayment percentage, or I was trying to think of a way to put this positively instead of saying the default rate is similar between new construction and ABWK, but.
Well, there's a wide range of methods that affiliates use. The prepayment incentives is based on the idea that if you can get your money a little bit sooner, let's say you've got a 3-year loan or a 2-year loan, and you can get most of that money up front or ahead of time rather than waiting till the end of the 2 years or the 3 years, that is worth it to the affiliate, both in terms of administrative time and effort on that loan and the future value of money. So many affiliates would rather have, if it's a $500 loan, they'd rather have $250 of that right now and call it done than wait 2 years and get the full 500. For them, it's worth it. For other affiliates, they'll say, Of course not. We'll wait 2 years and get the full $500. And it's that same philosophy, whether it's $500 or a $3,000 loan. So it's really up to your board and your finance folks, you know, your treasurer or whoever wants to make that call as to, is it better for us to offer some prepayment incentives, whether it's 50% if you pay up front, or, you know, a 20% reduction in price if you pay, you know, 2/3 or 1/3 of the way into it, you know, and you know, you get less of a reduction the further into the payment schedule you go. So if you go the entire time, you pay the full amount. But if you pay early, you get a small reduction. And the earlier you pay, the greater reduction you get. So it, you know, and how you schedule that and how you determine that is wide open. It's totally up to the affiliate.
Great. So the slide that's showing right now is talking about future learning exchange opportunities. So it's great to be able to share with all of our attendees kind of what they missed or get a sense of what some of that information was. But maybe you can just say a little bit about your past attendees, what they're looking for in the future, or some other things that might be added to the learning exchange. And then this second piece about being willing to come to Minnesota, and so I'd be anxious to hear from our attendees and our affiliates about your interest in this kind of an event and having it here, or if you have some promising practices that you're interested in sharing, that would really help us to start to shape and put something together to bring to you, just to have this expertise and to be able to interact face-to-face about ABWK. I would think, especially with our roots here in the Twin Cities with ABWK, that we would have definitely have somebody from the Twin Cities who could help with presenting some of that content. But we've got some really great affiliates throughout the state who are really been intentional and thoughtful about implementing the ABWK. But anyway, so Walter and SaraBeth, if you want to say a little bit about sort of trends or kind of where you think the learning exchange is headed, and just more about how that works to come to a new location.
Well, we're always interested in coming to new locations and spreading the word about A Brush with Kindness. We're sort of at a point, we're 6 years into A Brush with Kindness. We've been promoting A Brush with Kindness to try to get more affiliates interested. And I think we're at the point now, from the HFHI perspective, where with 500 affiliates, you know, signed up for A Brush with Kindness, what we're focusing on now, or what we're beginning to focus on, is trying to get those affiliates who are doing A Brush with Kindness to do it a little bit better and serve more families, rather than to get more affiliates on the A Brush with Kindness bandwagon, which is what we've been doing. So rather than a wide reach, we're trying to take a deeper reach with those affiliates who are actually doing it, rather than trying to get more affiliates on board. But having said that, we are still very willing to come and do A Brush with Kindness learning exchanges in any state, whenever we can manage the time. And so we would be interested in coming to Minnesota. Probably what we'd be looking at is maybe coming to Minnesota, and I'm guessing here, but maybe twice, maybe to do something in the two different areas of the state, so that we can have a smaller group and talk a bit more informally and get into more depth about what each affiliate is doing, rather than what we've been doing, like in Chicago, where we would have one in a regional location and invite people from different states. We'd want to come to Minnesota and maybe do one in the southern half of the state and one in the northern half of the state, and have smaller groups and be a bit more intimate and go in more depth. So that's what we're looking at.
Great. So those of you who are participating, and I'll say this for those who decide to just listen to the recording later, just, email me or in the comments when you fill out your survey, just, if you give some thought to, yes, I'm really enthusiastic, I love that, or I'd only participate if it had this kind of content. I'm thinking, a nice balance again of those folks who are just beginning with ABWK, and for those of you who have been doing it a little bit longer, what are some of those deeper, more specific or more technical topics that you would want some guidance on, or what kind of format would appeal to you the most? And so, and then on our end, we'll be working with Walter and SaraBeth to make that happen. Yes.
April, one of the things is you've got your Minnesota SSO conferences that we almost always come to. So that's another vehicle where if there are some specific, rather than, we could do a general brush with kindness 101, but also if people had some specific topics they were interested in about a brush with kindness, that's also a place where we could come and do one or even a couple of workshops if the SSO thought it was appropriate. So
yeah, that's what I was already kind of playing around with, in my head, just how to balance those events. And there's so much that we want to bring to our affiliates, but I think being mindful of how much time you have, and that many of the people are playing multiple roles where they might be exploring ABWK but also leading every other part of the operation. So so just just to encourage attendees to share that kind of feedback with us. And we have reached the end. We've got a couple minutes here. If you have a burning question and want to raise your hand or shoot that in here, you can do that right now. Otherwise, just know you'll get a follow-up email with a link to our recording. We will get a link to the slides from today. I also have made a note of lots of other things on my habitat, or some other things that will include in that follow-up email, just as resources for all of you. Thank you to Walter and SaraBeth for sharing their time today and their expertise and being willing to continue to do that. It's a great resource to, if you're not already on My Habitat and checking out those resources there, or just to email SaraBeth or Walter. There's a lot of departments at HFHI where you don't always get this quick response, but in my experience, Walter and SaraBeth are some of the most responsive people out there. So if you shoot them an email or give them a call, they'll get back to you right away. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if there are no further questions, I think I'll go ahead and stop our recording.